February, March of 2005. And so that's where we are. Kind of just a shout out to our illustrator, Rob Nance, who did the word maker as a kind of Rube Goldberg contraption that shoots a plane off. And then if you've gotten it, there's just some special features that make a sort of a tactile cover, kind of a kind of embossing and other things that we got out there. So I just wanted to say hi to everybody. Thank you so much for subscribing and sticking with us for 20 years. As I write in the welcome to this issue, make this is a magazine and a movement by and for makers. I'm so proud to have published all these stories, the projects, the people, makers, for over 20 years. And I still think if you go back and I don't know, pick a random issue like number 6, you'll still find things that are interesting and cool and fun. So it's a real it's a privilege to be able to do this. And out of Make a year later grew Maker Fair and had other ways to share what makers do. And so I'm just happy that we get to do this. We have a great group of people backstage that David will introduce and talk about digital fabrication. One of the things I kind of mentioned, it's sort of interesting to go back 20 years ago, and you might think about, where was technology then and where is it today? I mean, Arduino did start around the same time, but I don't think we covered it for several years. So it was not a standard microcontroller. There were not 3D printers were patented in 1984, but they didn't really until the RepRap project and then MakerBot, which was on the cover in about 2010, didn't become sort of a maker thing to use. So a lot of technologies have grown up with Make, and we've tried to cover them as we do with projects. So thank you, everybody. And I'll turn this back over to Dave. The Make microcontroller. Joseph, thanks for asking about that. That only kind of lasted a couple of years. Once I figured that Arduino was a standard, we stopped doing it. But the reason I did it, I ran into some guys in San Francisco that were kind of able to manufacture that. And it was pretty apparent that we needed to use microcontrollers in lots of projects. And a lot of them were custom or, and it was just too hard to spend all that time telling people how to put that together. And so the idea was to standardize on microcontrollers, and now we have tons of them again. But initially, it was a problem to solve, and that's why we did that. Okay, thank you, David, and thank you everybody for coming to our launch party today.
Thank you, Dale. So this time we're doing something a little bit different. In the past, we had individuals come on and chat with me, and then an after party where everyone would get together and ask questions. We're going to do more of a panel discussion this time with everybody on at the same time. We'll still go through in order in terms of individual contributors talking about what they contributed, but we're going to try something a little bit different. So definitely let us know what you think, and hopefully it'll go smoothly. But if not, definitely give us feedback either way. So I think we're going to bring everybody in right now, but I'm just going to introduce our first guest before instead of just spending 10 minutes talking about every single person in a row. So our first contributor is Eric Winnick Anthony. She's a science communicator living in Houston, Texas, and the founder of Steam Power Media. She's the creator of the YouTube pinball series Learning to Flip, so definitely check that out after this, and is one of the top 100 women pinball players in the world. And let's just give everyone else a second to filter in real quick. I think that's everyone. Okay, cool. So yeah, Erin, I loved reading your piece. Do you want to tell us a little bit about pinball and the Houston pinball scene and everything else?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, my piece was all on kind of the pinball restoration revival and specifically a focus on the Houston pinball community where I live, Space City Pinball. I started really playing competitive pinball a few years ago, and everyone kind of finds their niche within pinball that they like. Some people are tournament directors, some people do Twitch streaming for it. I have made a lot of content related about pinball, but I've gotten to know a lot of the people that do a lot of pinball machine repair. And I have a mechanical engineering background myself, which is partially why I gravitated towards pinball. The physical aspect of the game is so much fun. And now this piece gave me a reason to kind of dive in a little bit deeper. I took an EM repair class like early last year, and I got to talk to some of the techs that have built up this community and really supported and allowed its growth, because we have some collectors here that have, hundreds of machines and some really weird ones that present some interesting problems for restoration.
I love it. Yeah. So one of the places that you mentioned was what was the name? Was that the Wormhole?
Wormhole Pinball, yeah, they're kind
Yeah.
of one of the big hubs for Houston.
And so is that open to the public all the time or just during events, or how does that work exactly?
Yeah, Wormhole is like founded by this interesting group of 5 people that have collected over 200 pinball machines. And they open 3 days a month for tournaments to host and kind of like show off these really unique machines. And they, of that big collection, have like 23 to 24 in Wormhole at one time. And all the rest are stored in the Vault, a very mysterious name, which is where all the repair work happens, the restoration, and they rotate their machines through all the time. So typically you think an arcade, oh, they have a set number of machines. They're constantly bringing in new ones. So every time you go to Wormhole for a tournament, there's at least one new machine there.
Another kind of interesting stat or fact, I think, from that piece was that pinball sales are increasing and have been for the past 12 years or 15 years or something like that, correct?
Yeah, they've really, pinball took a big dip kind of in like the late 90s, early 2000s. You kind of, think of the heyday of pinball probably more like the 80s. But really, there's a bunch of machines that are really made from like the 50s to the 90s that were very, very popular. And then video games, they took a big hit. The industry didn't adapt very well. But then, honestly, COVID was something that really made it take off, because now there are so many more home buyers. So the market just went up like crazy. So in addition to all these arcades and bars that were buying it, people were putting 10, 15 machines in their house. So all these different companies had a huge market that was untapped, and all these people were also looking to buy old machines too. So that's why all the restoration became a very important thing to kind of bring back and train a whole new generation on.
Another thing
My
I thought, oh, go ahead, Matt. Yeah.
sorry, interjecting here. My boss bought a pinball machine recently,
Okay.
and it's actually kind of my nemesis in many ways, because she's late to meetings all the time because she's too busy playing pinball.
I get it.
But we kind of had a joke when she bought the pinball machine of like, well, this is your first pinball machine, implying that there would be more. And I said to her, I said, do you actually know anyone that has a pinball machine? It's kind of like Pokemon or something. Like once you start in, like, yeah.
Gotta catch 'em all.
100%.
Yeah, and
Yeah. Go ahead.
again, this is a new format, so we're all kind of figuring it out. But feel free to jump in if you can do so when there's a moment. If you have a comment that applies to everybody, obviously, Aaron, we want to give you the chance to take the lead. But if other people have things they want to contribute, please feel free
Yeah,
to jump in.
absolutely.
Another thing I thought was really interesting from that piece that I didn't realize was your description of how they ship. And so they basically, like, when I picture a pinball machine, there's, I don't know the right words. There's the bit with the screen and there's the table. Like what
At the back box is the
Yep.
part that has like the score and the art.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so that all like folds up or something is what I got from the article.
Yeah, so legs all come off, which is a very important step. And then, yes, the whole back can either be folded down or completely removed. So sometimes, for example, if it can't fit in your car, when it's just folded, you can remove the whole top, especially on older machines. Like it unplugs all the stuff in the back and you re-plug it in before it's all attached.
Yeah, I never realized that. And then the different leg lengths and the customizability of the play based on the leg length. And there's so much to this that I had no idea. I just show up at the arcade and start hitting some buttons is all I know about it.
I know, I take for granted that it's all there and set up, and someone was out there with a level and got the incline at the perfect number of degrees for the perfect speed on it. The playfield was waxed, all of it's moved. They're very heavy as well, so that's a whole thing of just like learning to move them. Oftentimes people use like hydraulic lifts or even coffin movers, weirdly, because they're similar weights and a similar size.
And have you actually
for
gotten into the repair side of it yourself at all?
Yes, a bit. I got to help with the machine that was in this article a little bit, Haley Comet. And then I own one, but definitely it is my first. There are more coming. It's called Circa 1933, which is a misleading name. It's actually like a cocktail machine that you sit down at it from the late 70s, a solid state machine. And yeah, actually, we're just doing repairs on it this past weekend because we had some of the pop bumpers that stopped firing. And one of the first number on my score digits just only says 4 right now, which was a very good score. You always start with an extra,
40 million
400,000 points. So yeah, doing some work on that.
Awesome. What is your favorite pinball machine if it's not the one that you own?
Oh, it's such a hard question, and I'm
Oh,
going to be
sorry.
annoying and say I have a multi favorites from different eras. For the
Yeah.
modern era, I'm a big fan of Godzilla, which is by
Okay.
Stern. I'm biased because I was in the trailer for Labyrinth, the pinball machine, which is a new one. So if you go look up the pinball machine trailer, you'll see me playing it in there.
Wow.
And then I love Congo from the 90s, based on like the Michael Crichton book and movie.
Do you want to go around and everyone tell us their favorite pinball machine if you have one?
Yes.
Matt.
I used to really like the Indiana Jones
Mm,
machine back in the day. But
classic.
our office, we have the Willy Wonka machine.
Okay.
Cameron.
Uh, and yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, I always played the Lord of the Rings pinball machine at my uncle's house, like the big like Balrog or whatever that
He swings
it's
out. Yeah.
yeah, super fun and interactive.
Dom, what you got? Oh, you're
Oh,
muted,
you're on
You're
Dom.
mute.
muted.
Of course I am. Yeah, I can't say I have a favorite, but if there's one around, I'll definitely put a quarter in and give it a go.
Hmm.
Chris?
I'm gonna have to probably be very close with Matt on this. I think mine would be the Star Wars machines. There have been a couple of them that I've come across that they just, the old nostalgia kick and just a lot of fun playing, right?
Nice.
Yeah. And if people want to toss in the comments what their favorites are too, I see Sean says pachinko machine, which not sure if that counts, but we'll allow it. Most of my pinball memories are less about playing them and more about we had pinball machines at my office, and it was more like the little audio clips that you'd hear. So I just remember there was like GoldenEye that had a bunch of things that are just like in my brain, and Monster Madness was that one?
Monster
Like there's just
Bash?
was it Monster? Was it?
Monster Bash,
Monster
probably?
Bash, yes, Monster
Uh-huh.
Bash, GoldenEye. These ones are like permanently ingrained in my head, and I'll just sometimes like come out with like a quote from the pinball machine that I don't even remember was from the pinball machine, but it's just like Adam's Family. That's a good one. That was one that we had.
Yeah.
I'm just reading through the comments here.
Yeah, Adam's Family is the best-selling pinball machine of all time, still to this
Wow,
day from the 90s. So that's a good choice for sure.
popular choice, awesome. So we got a couple more minutes allocated to your segment. Aaron, if there's other things you want to share about pinball, the world of pinball, pinball restoration, competitive pinball, anything like
Yeah.
that.
Well, I'll say if anyone is hearing this and wants to go play some, my favorite resource is pinballmap.com. You can
Mm,
search where you are, and it's a community sourced page. You can see all the places that have machines. You can help update it if there's one that is incorrect. The community will swap out and post as they get swapped in and updated. And then if you're interested in playing in a tournament, check out the IFPA website, which is the International Flipper Pinball Association. So like the body over competitive pinball. And you can go to the calendar and see tournaments in your area. Because you mentioned, some of the things that you remember most about pinball. For me, it's really the social aspect. It's
mhm.
such an amazing community around this. And no skill required. I started out and played a number of tournaments and got dead last for a while till I learned. And the community will help you learn these machines, and it's a great way to go out and meet people, especially if you have an interest in making stuff, because this community really appreciates anyone who can come in and read a electronic schematic and is willing to pick up a soldering iron and help out on restoring some of these machines as well.
Awesome. And maybe you can drop the links to some of those sites into the chat.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm getting all of the pinball stuff is coming back into my head now. It's all like reconnecting. And we must have had the Star Wars one too, because for no reason, and I'm gonna mess this up, there's this thing that just came to my head that was like Queen Amidala is young and naive. That was like one of them, and I don't know what. I don't even remember that character. I don't know. I don't remember anything about that Star Wars, but that's in my head now.
Yes, very cool. And I know someone put fun with pinball in the chat as well. Very cool website as well. There's people that use pinball parts to make a lot of other things and kind of demo how they work. And the team at Fun with Pinball has done some very, very cool stuff, especially with electromechanical machine parts, all the older machines, and very, very cool, ranging from, a clock that's made with those parts to a number of other demos about just electronics as a whole.
A couple new coming in. Iron Maiden and Dale says Bride of Pinbot. He has Bride of Pinbot machine for the office, and it says make my day on startup, but it's not working right now. So maybe we can send someone over to get that fixed.
Do some work there.
Awesome. Thank you, Aaron. And where can people find you online before we switch topics?
Sure. Yeah. People can find me on all the social medias at Aaron Winnick. And if in the pinball world, I do commentary for our pinball tournaments for Wormhole Pinball. So if you want to just see some pinball action and not go out of your house, check out Wormhole Pinball on Twitch and YouTube. I do especially a lot of commentary for the women's pinball tournaments for those.
Awesome. Please drop us like all those things that you mentioned in the comments.
I'll do a big link dump here. Yes.
Perfect. Okay. Wayne Salter just dropped a pinball repair clinic link, and John did pinballmap.com, so we're covered there. John is in the Detroit area, as am I myself, so maybe we'll hook up after this and go to Pinball Pete's or Marvelous Marvin's Mechanical, whatever the word is, and do some pinball after this. Up next, we got kind of an experimental concept here with not one, but three. We got Matt and Chris and Dom, and I'm just going to go through all of their bios at once. They're all contributing on the 3D printing and digital fabrication, CNC, etc. aspect of the magazine. So I'm just going to do 3 bios, and then we'll jump in and talk about all those different things, which was the main subject of the magazine this issue. Matt Stoltz is head of community for Coco Press, a contributing editor of Make, and longtime wrangler, not rambler, maybe both, of our digital fabrication shootouts. Chris Yohei is a CTO by day, Digifab demon by night, Make Digifab shootout alum, and 3DP PGH co-founder in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, another Midwesterner. And Dom Dominici is a maker and avid 3D printing enthusiast in Orange County, California. He's the founder of the 3D POC meetup and one of the producers of Maker Faire Orange County. Got them all, and now let's dive in. So, Matt, I'm going to kind of let you take the lead on just bringing us up to speed on what's new in the Digifab universe this year.
I do have to say, David, you have to be very careful with Pittsburghers and calling them Midwesterners. Most of them will cut you for that. Like that is fighting words. They mostly firmly want to say that they are East Coast. So be very, very careful next time you're in the Berg.
Wow, good to know. I will if I go to the Maker Faire there, I will take that information under advisement.
Yeah. So I used to be in Pittsburgh with Chris Yohe. I was founder of Hack Pittsburgh in 2009. The makerspace there where Yohe was a member, and we hung out for many years there. But yeah, tying things back in, like, digital fabrication, pinball, things like that. There's a lot of people who are 3D printing parts to go into pinball machines now to help restore pinball machines. So it's kind of a nice little tie-in there of you can use your digital fabrication machines to help work on your pinball machines, which is fantastic. So but yeah, so Chris has long helped me out with the digital fabrication issues. Back when we used to do the shootout, Chris was my number 2, making sure all of that happened. Those of you that are longtime readers will remember the shootout issues and all the kind of craziness around those. If you ever see us in an event, we will be more than happy to tell you some of the back behind the scenes stories of the insanity that went on to try to make sure that those issues came out. And Dom, again, running 3D POC. We have hung out for years now at Rep Rap Fests, so Midwest Rep Rap Fest and ERF, and now Rocky Mountain Rep Rap Fest. And we decided to see if Don wanted to help us out this year.
Now,
So,
does
and he did a great
Midwest
job.
Rep Fest, are Pittsburgh folks allowed to go to that one, or how does that
They
work?
go to it, but that is firmly in the Midwest, being in Indiana. So, yes,
We,
that
we,
is
we
it.
try
That
and
is
make
it.
3
our appearance
hours,
known. Yeah.
like 3 hours from the nearest airport in the middle of nowhere,
Yes.
Midwest.
Yes, middle of nowhere, Goshen, Indiana. But to a good point, like that is definitely Midwest, and it takes us over 6 hours to drive from Pittsburgh to it. So, Pittsburgh's far enough east that so yeah, so we had a great time with this issue. We focused a little bit more on the kind of laser side of things, whereas we traditionally focus very heavily on 3D printing. But this is a little bit of a transition year. I think there's some very exciting things coming up in the 3D space, but it felt like there was more kind of going on in the laser space, and gave us a good opportunity to kind of step back from 3D printing and talk about lasers a little bit more intensely there. So we had some really great articles. The other co-founder of 3D PPGH, Ryan Priori, wrote a fantastic article on laser eye safety that we had to truncate down in because there's only so many pages in a magazine. But we will have the full kind of version of that up online here soon enough. But yeah, wear your safety glasses, kids, because lasers are very, very dangerous. And Ryan has a PhD in photonics, and was a very excellent person to write that article for us.
We got a late breaking pinball favorite from Keith. Xenon, the first talking pinball machine in 1980.
Nice.
Very good choice. Very good choice.
Very memorable. Sorry to be late. I had a dove trapped in my garage in here. I had to deal with a trapped bird.
I feel that's a metaphor for something,
Did,
perhaps.
what did it sound like when it cried?
It didn't
Oh, okay.
just
No
flat.
tears for shit.
So Matt, so I know we focused a lot more on CNC and lasers this issue, and one of the upcoming themes in another issue is sort of Ultimate Workshop, and the theme of things that 20 years ago when the first magazine came out were really just inaccessible to makers are now within perhaps, if you're lucky, within reach cost-wise. And so is that part of what the CNC and laser popularity increase is about, is that people can just afford them that much more?
I definitely think so. I mean, when I first started on the Make Shootout team, we were only doing 3D printers. And so I started in 2013 reviewing 3D printers for Make, and we all ended up in Sebastopol at the old Make office and did some testing. And then the next year we were in Youngstown, Ohio, and that was Chris's first year there. And then when I took on the role of kind of heading it all up and not just being one of the testers, I said, hey guys, like, we've been focusing on 3D printers because they have become lower cost and accessible and things like that. But we are now starting to see, even in 2015, so 10 years ago, we're starting to see more CNCs hit the market that are, of a user, or an average home accessible cost. So we had gonna mute my phone here. We had X-Tool and all the stuff that was going on there, coming to market. And we had again lower cost lasers. There wasn't long until Glowforge came out and really kind of shook up the laser world. And we're seeing that same thing. Like the prices are still just really, really dropping. The Blu-ray revolution and media players made cheap diode lasers really, really accessible, and people figured out that they could turn those into laser cutters. And at first it was kind of hacked together things that people were attaching to 3D printers, and now there's an entire large market on diode based laser cutters that are a great place for people to get started.
So I think that was a good thing in the magazine, was just that clarification between the different technologies. So there's CO2, diode, and fiber were the big three, right?
Yeah. That when we're typically talking about lasers, those are the three that people are really getting started on. So again, diodes are just like an LED. Oh, your blur is screwing you up there, Keith.
It's filtering out the magazine, Keith.
Yes. So diodes are solid state, based on LED technology, and very low cost and easy to get into. CO2, which has been very, traditional laser cutters are kind of the all around workhorse. Like if you have the money and you have the space, CO2 is going to probably do the most for you. And fiber have for a long time been a little outside price ranges, but we're now starting to see that drop in fiber. You're starting to get into fiber for even under $1,000 now, which is really great. So those people that really want to get in and start etching metals, marking metals, cutting through thin metals, they can start to do so in fiber lasers.
And I think,
Steph, go ahead, Chris.
oh, I was going to say, and Matt, to the point you're making, back in the 13s, 14s, the mid-teens, where we're seeing all the laser prices at now are where, back then
the printer
your
prices were
Ultimakers-
back then. Yeah.
Yeah. Your Ultimakers, your Tazes, all your workhorse printers that the average consumer could use. So we're beyond the point where it's just rods and nuts and string and twine and some wires holding everything together, to where it's a consumer product. At that point where the prices were there, now you can touch all three of these lasers in that price range. So you can really have any of these in your garage. Same with CNC machines. For a few years now, we've had machines in that price range that are really workhorse, but that you don't have to be a super hobbyist to use. Just your average everyday garage guy or gal can use the machine at a price point that's fairly affordable. You sock some money away and at least you can touch it. And we're starting to see in that end, we keep hearing rumors of, we already have the resin printers, but the SLS printers, and that the price is starting to drop and becoming more approachable, so that in 5 or 6 years from now, are we going to start seeing that now you can have a small format, SLS printer in your garage, and it's something that's been coming for a while, and you keep hearing the rumors of it, but that's, kind of where we're headed. Is these technologies go to that sub $2,000 price range, then many more people can afford them and adopt them and bring them into their workflows,
Well, and
we had a comment.
I think also, sorry, they also start to appear in universities and makerspaces where a generation of young people gets their hands on them when they're still slightly out of reach for maybe your garage price, but they're at a makerspace price now, and that primes a whole generation of young people to start using the technology, and then they use the tool chain, and then they're ready. When that price does drop, there's a whole generation of people ready to grab those first machines at a reasonable price point.
I think
just
it's
wanted to-
more than just price coming down. It's also the software improving and making things a lot easier. That accessibility is letting younger generations pick it up like it's a phone and it's intuitive enough that they can mark their first tumbler. Whereas with like what's the X Tools Studio software.
The creative suite
creative space.
Creative space from X Tool. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was one of the big parts of like the Glowforge revolution when it came to laser cutters was not only did they bring the prices down, they made a laser that was fairly easy and accessible to use. And I think that X-Tool is kind of taking that another step further, where X-Tool Creative Space, once you get familiar with it, they have diode lasers, they have CO2 lasers, they now have a fiber laser, and it's all within the same software. So you're not learning something new as you're switching between all of these different tools. You're all within the same software, and it's really good intuitive software that is really helpful, because not everyone wants to kind of learn a complicated software package just to, like you say, start engraving big dumb cups. And
Steph Piper in the chat said, loved reading your laser cutter article in the magazine, Matt, hoping to get one soon. And I want to repay the favor, because I do actually have Steph's book right here. Skill Seeker is available in the Maker Shed right now. It's really cool and has all of these topics we've been talking about: 3D printing, CNC, all of these things have 3D modeling, maybe not pinball repair, but we could make a pinball repair, I'm sure. And it's a little skill tree organizer where you can color in things as you unlock these different skills. So it's great to see Steph in here, and I thought it was worth bringing that up since I had the prop handy. Going back into the fabrication, one of the things that I also thought was interesting was the extreme caution around unenclosed, especially galvo lasers. Can you tell? Can we go into that a little bit?
Yeah, it's it's kind of crazy in some ways. I mean, the diode lasers when they first kind of came to the market, a lot of them were fully open, unenclosed. And you have this extremely bright laser, which, you know, people kind of think, oh, you know, someone shined a red laser pointer in my eye before, you know, when some kid was goofing around with it. And it's like, well, that's a much lower power. It's a different frequency, everything else. Like you're actually in that blink response where you can kind of blink as it hits before it does any real damage. These blue lasers and some of these lasers that we're seeing in diode laser cutters and things, your vision's gone before you have the instinct to blink. And so it's very, very important to follow safety practices, to have good safety glasses and things like that. And you know, I think this kind of open, unenclosed laser ecosystem that's been out for a while, we're starting to see that fall off, which is really good. We're starting to see more and more of even the diode lasers be able to come, you know, fully enclosed. And hopefully we'll get more there with the fiber lasers, as you talked about. You know, some of the fiber lasers that are out there, or most of them that are on the market, do not come stock with enclosures. You can sometimes get add-on enclosures and things for them. But it would be nice to have more safety. And the other side that's, to me, that's silly on the lack of enclosure when it comes to a fiber laser is you're ablating metal, you're vaporizing metal. And when that's not in an enclosure, it's just going into the air around you. So you are inhaling metal particles. That's not great. So having enclosures is very nice. So,
and it's also this is another continuing trend over the years. And I mean, this goes eons. We all have heard about just using the standard, you know, whether it's the circular, the table saw, or anything else, you know, everyone gets excited. You get new tools, you go out and you start using them. And a lot of times we have a tendency to get so excited about I can finally get access to this, that a lot of times we jump before we think sometimes, right? And certainly, there's that tendency, I get this new toy, let's go play with it, right? And so now it's the lasers with the eye safety in 13, 14, 15 in there with the resin printer starting to pop up. And there was all this excitement around resin printing, but unless you had to pay a little bit more attention to get to the resin safety side of things, right? And so with all of these, whether it's VOCs and 3D printers, resin printing, and the skin toxicity there, and other things, everything can be done safely, and everything can be done with laser cutters and the ventilation. Everything can be done safely, but a lot of times it's taking that extra second to look at the safety side, because everywhere we turn, there are risks with all this, and sometimes the risks are not necessarily intentionally hidden, but they're not exactly advertising them up front, right? So we always want to be careful, whether it's with lasers, whether it's just resin, anything, like make sure we're doing it safely. And if we're being good community members, make sure that everyone else around us knows, like stop the person that's about to do this and say, hey, did you realize, you know, don't not do it, but let me show you how to do it the right way, or let me show you how to do it safely, right?
Yeah, I definitely agree there. I think that, you know, a lot of maker tools by makers for makers have had a tendency to run a little a little loose when it comes to the safety side of things. And you know, we're catching up now, and I think that's really good. Not to sound like the safety police, still get tools and have fun, but just do it safely.
It's the same as if you're working on a pinball machine or an old CRT monitor or something, and sticking the screwdriver in and making sure your caps are discharged and everything else before you're playing around with high voltage and everything else, right? You know, just make sure it's safe before you go in, you know, poking around and stuff.
Turn off your pinball machine before you do the repair. Common mistake from beginners. So yeah.
Probably only
There's a
gets that
story
wrong
there.
one time though. So before I asked in the pinball segment what everyone's favorite pinball machine was, maybe we can go around and just say what not necessarily what your favorite 3D printer, CNC machine, etc. is, but like what you're excited about right now, starting with Matt.
I mean, that's like asking what my favorite child is. Like that's very difficult.
Well,
I
you
mean,
can so
I
what's
I
your
think
so
I think
everyone
I'm
say
I
what their
think I
favorite machine and favorite child is, please.
I think I'm contractually probably obligated to say the best 3D printer in the world is the Cocoa Press.
Awesome.
It's definitely the tastiest 3D printer in the world. So, printing in chocolate, you can't go wrong with that.
Tell us more
Zero
about it,
waste.
'cause
Yeah, zero waste. We are the only 3D printer in the world that has zero failed prints. We just have unexpected snacks. And so yeah, it's great. But that aside, I would have a hard time giving up my full size CNC machine. So yeah.
Aaron?
I have always been a Lulzbot fan. My first printer was a mini, and I have a
Nice.
Lulzbot Sidekick right now. Both are sitting over there.
Nice.
Very good choice.
Cameron.
My first printer was also a Lulzbot.
Hmm.
But I think now I'm in the Prusa train.
Cool.
I've been sold, but I'm super excited for the Core One. It's definitely outside of my price range right now, but it's pretty cool. Also in the digital fabrication area, but not really 3D printing. There's been some cool stuff going on in like the hobby area. There's some guy on YouTube making like a 4-axis EDM machine, which is insane.
Yep.
Oh, you could have said
also,
your own creation for this topic, technically, Cameron.
Oh man, yeah. Well, it goes
also of
without
note,
saying.
a Core One review will be coming very, very shortly to an upcoming issue of Make. So
That's sweet.
Awesome. Dom, what's your favorite or most
Uh,
interesting?
3D printing, I'm a Prusa guy. I've got a couple MK4Ss running. Absolutely love the MMU. I did not know how much I was going to enjoy multicolor printing. Um, but yeah, definitely a Prusa guy.
Chris?
I mean, my favorites kind of ended up at the end there. I'm on kind of the weirder end. I like some of the fringe stuff or the tangential stuff. So I mean,
Good.
industry wise right now, I'm really excited about the Core One and more so what that means for kind of the ongoing, Core One comes out. Okay, we have this new, Prusa version of the Core XY in a desktop format. What is the Bamboo's answer to that going to be? How are the other players going to duke it out? I think that we'll see dividends on that in the industry, moving forward. There will be some nice things paid, but like the ones that I'm really excited about. I mean, I love it. I love what's going on there. I'm interested in the Coremon. I got an upgrade kit on the way. I shelled out the money for it myself, when it just went on sale the other week. So it's like super excited about that. But realistically, the things like the little projects, the baby belts, the positron, all the portable printers, the Rollahan has a Rook out that's a really cool little DIY Core XY design. It's just a neat printer going back to the days of like the printer bot smalls and all these little handheld things you can carry around with you. Just there's some cool stuff there that's still showing you that there's a place. It's as much as it seems like we have these big players moving the big chess pieces around and you don't hear as much of the fanfare about the other stuff. There's still a lot of stuff going on out there that you can just roll it on your own and kind of, bare parts. And to that end, you see in the issue right now, Jason at LDO is a big player behind a lot of those movements, right? There are still key pieces in the place, but in just little projects like that, like Cameron's machine looks fantastic. I'm super excited to maybe dig in when I have a few spare weekends and dive into that. But there's just a lot of cool stuff. But when it comes to that, I'd say right now, I've also, to Matt's end, the Cocoa Press was mentioned in there. It's a cool machine as well. And I mean, Brook Drum released the laser woodcut paste extruder way back, maybe a decade ago now or more. And then we've had Construct 3D in that since then, but I'm a big food and coffee guy. So seeing how that's kind of developed since then into this, nice, take a, V0 style machine and just throw the paste extruder on it and kind of to that end of the software coming together. Because in the food, we've been able to print for a while now with food, same as multicolor, multi-extrusion, but seeing how we get that food out in a way that almost anyone can do it, and the software piece is really coming together to make that easy now, whereas it is easy was never a word associated with that endeavor before.
Maker Faire Rome, there was a culinary school that was printing chicken, like all kinds of vegetables, meat, all kinds of stuff. It was really interesting. They had a deconstructed tiramisu where they printed 3D printed ladyfingers, 3D printed ricotta, and whatever the other ingredients are. They had a whole plate with 3D printed food there. But Also, people in the chat, if you want to tell us what your favorite, and it doesn't have to be 3D printer, it could be CNC, it could be any digital fabrication. We'd love to hear what your favorites are. Kenny ordered the Anycubic Cobra 3 Max combo. I'm not familiar with that one, but maybe Matt or someone can tell us more about that if it's interesting. Keith, did you have a favorite or anything you're interested in? I don't want to skip you.
I wouldn't say I have a favorite, but I'm very impressed with the Prusa XL with the tool changer. I just feel like automated tool change is just such a rad thing to have. I mean, it's multi-material but it can also be multi-nozzle, nozzle widths and
Yeah.
it just seems like that's where things are going to be. And I'm sure that's where things are industrially, but at the maker level, for that machine to appear from Prusa, it just is exciting.
And the exciting thing there is, like, Dom talked about the MMU, and the MMU's been out for a while, and that Cobra 3, the combo, that comes with a filament swapper too, the AMS from Bamboo. The nice thing about a lot of those systems is they give you a lot of multicolor, so you can put different colors in the systems. And you can, to some degree, do some multi-material. That's how they are slightly marketed. But you run into problems with that. The nice thing about the Excel is the Excel really, the tool changing Excel really gives you true multi-material, because you have each individual nozzle can be set up with different temperature profiles and different nozzle sizes, things like that, to make sure that if you want to run totally different materials out of the machine, you can, which is great.
And it eliminates the purge tower waste that is coming with the first generation of multi-material systems.
Reduces.
They're great. The finished product looks really cool.
Yeah.
But the
Because
amount
depending
of
on what
waste
you're printing,
is really scary,
prime
and,
into the object.
it just feels like that was a stepping stone.
And again, it's getting some of those down where the software toolpath is easier for folks to adapt to as well, right? And with there, we can look forward, much like the other tool change. It's not the first tool changer, but it's the one that seems to have reduced the barrier to entry by another level of amplification, right? Because we've even had the Z-Morph back in the day with the all three tool, the CNC laser and printing, the boxy. We've seen these machines before that have been multi-tool or multi-head, but now you have one that, and we had the E3D with their tool changer system, but now we have one where they've really started to work on the software too, and are going to continue to make an investment in that software to really make it usable across multi-domains, as we move forward in the future. Obviously focused on 3D printing, but there's no reason why in the future we don't see some of those other advancements creep in as well.
I'm just reading through the comments. Stephen finally pulled the trigger on a Bamboo after bringing his daughter to New York and local mini maker fairs. Loving it so far. Another Bamboo from Rick, whose first printer was an Ultimaker laser cut. The comments kind of flying past here. Where did they go? Sean, finally, it's something that isn't 3D printers. Shapeco 5 Pro. And Ja has a heavily modded Monoprice Mini 2. So cheap and still printing perfectly after 7 years. Printing right now. That's pretty great. We just got a couple more minutes in this segment. If Matt or anyone has anything more that they want to dive into real quick on the digital fabrication.
I will give a plug to these two guys. If you are in the Pittsburgh area, check out 3DPPGH. They are a monthly meetup group of people talking about 3D printers, hanging out, and doing 3D printing things. And if you're in SoCal, Dom has 3DPOC for people, same thing, monthly meetup. Come talk about 3D printers. So great place to hang out and
ours is a little
talk
different.
with like-minded people.
Yeah, ours is a little different in that we do it on the weekend typically, and it's a kind of an all day come and go. Come work on your project, come work on your printer, come learn about printers kind of thing. So it's pretty fun.
Awesome. And if you guys want to drop, well, go ahead and tell us where we can find you online. And also if you want to drop those into the comments, starting with Matt, where can we find you?
Where can you find me?
If you want to be found online, if you don't want to be, then...
I'm Matt Stoltz on all the social medias.
Okay. And Dom?
I'm Geek Toy Box on all the socials.
Okay. And Chris?
CJ Yowie on all the socials.
Awesome. And go ahead and drop those into the comments, and any of the other links about the things that we talked about that you want to share. It'd be great. We're going to jump over to Cameron. Cameron Cheney is a mechanical engineer, tinkerer, and maker of things. He's particularly intrigued by human-robotic interaction and Keith's favorite, surfing. So tell us about what you featured in the magazine, Cameron. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah, thanks, David, for the introduction. So I presented in the magazine my handheld CNC router. So it sort of goes in that same vein as Matt was talking about before of trying to make CNC machines and digital fabrication just more accessible. So this is obviously making CNC machines more accessible. And the whole goal of it is to both lower the price of CNC machining and then also make it much more small form factor so that people don't need like a huge room to do big cuts with the CNC machine. Because normally, if you wanted to do like a 4x8 foot, big CNC design, then you have to have a device that's at least 4x8 feet to actually be able to move around and cut it. But with a handheld CNC router, pretty much what happens is the user becomes like one of the axes, or like the two-dimensional axis of movement for this device. And then the device knows where it is in space, so it's able to correct. As long as the person moves the device roughly along the design, then it can correct and cut it precisely.
So tell us about that, because I've got a mouse right here that is probably doing something similar, but how does that work?
Totally. Yeah. So the way I have decided to solve it, I've brainstormed a lot of different ways to do this, but I settled on, like you said, computer mice to do the positioning. And the positioning is the most tricky part for doing this sort of solution for CNC machining, because to be able to actually correct for where you are in space, you need to know where the device is. And so to do that, I use 4 optical flow mouse sensors, and essentially wherever you start your design from, that's 0, 0. And then once you start moving it, the mouse sensors track the surface and then determine its position and orientation in space.
And how did you, what's the math? How does it all stay together?
Yeah, totally. So the mouse sensors, the pure data that they're giving the microcontroller is like X and Y velocities. So these are like body fixed frame velocities, and like at the full like base level, what they're doing is actually just taking like pretty much videos of the surface. They're tiny cameras, and they're just measuring the surface as it's moving. But then they have, these tiny computers built into them, and they do all the computation to actually say, on a given frame, how much has this moved, and then it'll just pop out a dx and dy for me. So I'll take that velocity, combine, all the velocities from the 4 sensors, and for each pair of sensors, I basically do a rigid body analysis and say how much is one moving relative to the other, and if there's a rotation involved as well. And from that, you can integrate those values over time. And from velocity, you get position, and then from any like rotational velocity, you get angle or orientation. And I have you're able to do this with 2 mouse sensors, but I have 4 just to like introduce redundancies so that you have some sort of like error correction.
So I know you got some video which might make this clear, but what is happening? What is like the user experience? Like, I understand the math and the calculations, but like as I'm using this, does it like inhibit me from moving, or like how does it tell me not to go there, or how does that part work?
Totally. So and I have it on my desk here too, so you can get
Oh,
like a little
excellent.
visual.
Love
But
visuals. We want it to be more show
yeah,
and tell. Yeah.
totally. And this is it's pretty much like the same sort of user experience as a handheld router, minus like just a normal handheld router. Except as you're like, so you slide it along your workpiece, but then as you're moving along, there is a screen on the front that will show you where you're supposed to move and how you're supposed to orient the device. And so as you move it, the device will like go back and forth to sort of correct. I can do a little demo too if we wanted, real
Please,
quick.
yeah, let's do
Yeah.
it.
So
Oh, this is great.
try to get myself set up. But I have it set up for a pen right now just because I don't want to blow everyone's eardrums out. But I'll plop that in there, and you can see there's just like a 3D printed tool mount right here that can pretty much put in any tool you want. And then this is the user interface. So it's just a smartwatch display that I got off Amazon. Does the trick. And then I can select any design I want. And I'll just do the demo I did for Keith and the guys at Make, which is just the Make logo. But I'll press it and then it will get into position. And you can see as I move it left to right, it compensates. And then once I start, I'll move forward, move back, just as the screen's telling me to do so.
Wow, it is so quiet without the Dremel.
Yeah, right? And then that's design right there.
That's great. Okay, yeah, now I totally get it, because unless you went completely kind of off piste, it's actually just compensating for your movement anyway. You're just kind of getting it in the general area, and then it takes care of the rest.
Yeah.
Steph is commenting on your filament choice, pink parts.
Yeah. It was so I did this for my senior design project at college, and at the time, pink was the most available filament spool, and I wanted to do it all in one color, and I also like pink, so it worked. But
It looks great. And yeah, lots of people are saying how cool it is. I don't know if you wanted to do the video as well, Cameron, or was did we already see in real life?
Yeah, I'll do the video just
Cool.
to show it cutting as well.
All right, you might need to cover your ears for this one, but hopefully the volume's okay.
Yeah, I think it should be pretty balanced. Okay, let's find which screen that is real quick.
While you're doing that, Cameron, everyone's really excited in the comments. People are saying, gorgeous, wow, brilliant idea. So cool. That is so cool. Everyone's saying it's so cool,
sweet.
sharp.
Awesome.
And
thanks so much.
I can't see the YouTube comments right now, but I just wanted to give a shout out to the folks who are watching us on YouTube outside of the Zoom chat. I can't see you, but I'm sure you're saying amazing things too.
Let's see. How do I... All right, currently this little window is blocking the tab for YouTube.
Oh no, it worked earlier when we were in the...
I know. Oh, here we go. All right, it disappeared.
There we go.
All right. Yep.
Ah, shucks, I broke my favorite cleaver.
I don't think it's possible to cut that, much less away from a CNC machine.
Shabby.
Nice.
Ah,
I didn't know it's gonna be such a like infomercial. That's great. Awesome. And so what is the tool that it's actually manipulating? Is that just like a Dremel, or what is that?
Yeah, so that's a Dremel I had on it for that video. And I've recently switched to like a more common like hobby CNC like trim router, just because these guys are way more powerful and much easier to take away a lot of material. But
Everyone's really
yeah,
loving it in the comments. So
Yeah.
definitely take a look at those if you get a second.
oh sure.
When you were at Maker Faire, did you have the shaper folks all coming over, poking around, looking at it?
Yeah.
Shaper
had
without the stickers.
yeah. Yep. Yeah, I had
Yeah.
a couple come through and check out the device. They were super cool. They were really supportive and kind of just stoked to see sort of like somebody else you know, in the industry.
Yeah.
Because, you know, at the end
I
of the
do
day, it's yeah. Sorry.
I
At the end of the day, it's like everything is the more stuff in the industry, the more the whole thing sort of moves forward. But yeah.
Yeah, I do really love the use of the optical mouse sensors over the like fiduciary dominoes that the shaper uses. Like the shaper is a really cool, awesome tool. But you're just kind of stuck sticking tape all over things all the time. So
Totally.
yeah,
Yeah.
And it needs a
My
lot
goal
more.
from the
Yeah, a lot more
sorry.
computing power, a lot more computing power, and you know, CV
yeah,
cameras, and like there's just a lot more involved. That's what I
yeah,
really like about this project. It's just like the elegance of just using the optical mouse sensors to get probably 95% of the result. Like you have to rehome it
yeah.
once in a while on a big piece. Cameron talks about this in the article. You know, on a big piece, you'll have to do some rehoming to you know
But
prevent
you do want to shape
prevent a
you
little
do
bit of
want to
drift,
shaper
but
too. Yeah,
oh my gosh,
Mm.
what so much lower barrier to people buying it and people making it. It's just really exciting to see the simpler technology getting virtually the same result.
And Cameron,
Totally.
where can go ahead.
Yeah, I appreciate it. That was my goal from the start was to pretty much make something that you know, I could do with that same premise, except you know, it doesn't have any involved setup or, you know, this consumable that you have to keep on buying the more you use it.
yeah. Cameron, what's the largest piece that you've made with it? I asked because back in 2016, we tested the shaper. We had one of the first ones that like left
Hmm.
the factory early on, and we tried to cut a chair out with it because we were testing other CNCs and tried to
Sure.
actually like cut furniture with it, and it was kind of exhausting, like going
Oh yeah.
through the entire process. So have you found the same with yours, or yeah, what kind of scale of objects have you made thus far?
Yeah, so I've only drawn big objects so far.
Mm,
I haven't cut a big object, but I definitely want to start doing that soon. Because I just got like the, you know, CAD CAM workflow working so that I could do like any arbitrary design before I'd like hard code everything. But yeah, definitely planning to do some more of that soon. But I could see that like issue potentially like being there as well. It's just you know, as you're moving along, there is some sort of, you know, like feedback and you know, the router is trying to pull you in some sort of direction
yeah.
just as you're moving it the same way, you know, you're pushing a handheld router along. So I think there is probably going to be the same or similar sort of um, I guess pull there.
Yeah.
Cameron, where can people find out more about you online?
Yeah, so you can find more about me at compassrouter.com. That's the website for the project. And then on the socials, I'm the Handheld CNC or Instagram and TikTok. And then I'm trying to post more videos on my personal YouTube as well, just Cameron Chaney.
Excellent. If you want to drop those links into the chat, we've got
Totally.
about just a little under 15 minutes left. And so this is the real chance to go kind of cross panel and talk to each other like we used to in the after party, ask each other questions. If people in the chat want to ask us questions, I can raise those up. I don't think we have the Q&A for some reason. The Q&A is not a thing today. So I guess just drop them in. Oh, no, it's right there. I just couldn't find it. So go ahead and use the Q&A, and I'll try and use those if you can find it better than I can. Otherwise, I'll also be looking at the chat, and so feel free to ask there. And again, I don't know how to see the YouTube right now, but Jamie, if you're able and people are asking questions over there, go ahead and shuttle them to us up here. But panel to panel, any questions for each other at the moment, or things you want to talk about?
I'm gonna have to jump off. I'm sorry,
That's
but
right.
thank you
Sorry.
all
Go
very
ahead,
much for
Aaron.
having me. I super appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Thank
It was
you
nice
for your
meeting you.
time, and we
Thank you.
Nice
appreciate
meeting you
Nice
all.
meeting you.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Bye.
Hey, Cameron,
All
I'm
right.
curious. I see the air correction left to right. Is there any air correction forward to backward as you're moving the device around?
No, it's just left to right at the moment. It's like it's a little limiting, honestly, for just having two dimensions of movement because it gets like harder to do more complex designs. Like you have to actually rotate it to get certain contours. I'm definitely looking to do a three-dimensional version in the future, but it just makes like the user experience a bit more difficult with just two dimensions.
Actually, I was impressed by how it was tracking. Like you were rotating it uh in places in that video, and I was impressed that it was tracking its own rotation and staying on track. Um, Sometimes you have to you want to rotate it just for the to counter the way the tool is pulling against you. Like any router, any power tool, you kind of have to
Hmm.
brace yourself against the way it's going to pull or push around corners and things. So I was impressed that it was. You moved much more fluidly than Sam and I did in the demos. I was like being
Yeah,
careful, and you're like just like swinging it around, and it's compensating
yeah.
for the rotation
There's a
as
bit of a
well.
learning curve, but once you get it, it's such a nice feeling.
Yeah.
It's funny. I look at this and think about the other article about Jason from LDO, and it's just like we're like a year or two from an LDO kit of this coming out, in
Yeah.
conjunction, and we're
That was going to
all
be my
able to
next
get
question
one.
is, yeah, do you have any plans to commercialize it, Cameron?
Yeah, so I'm just starting right now. I'm starting with my beta testing program and just starting by selling like 10 kits and then seeing where that goes and working towards the like actual release version. So yeah, I'm gonna be doing that for like the next month or two, and then hopefully coming out with like a full on, ready to sell kit in the near future.
Well, again, if you don't know Jason, and you want an introduction there, I'd be more than happy to introduce you to Jason from LDO, who makes all the Voron kits. His
Oh yeah,
company does the Cocoa Press kits for my company. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there that he's currently LDO is manufacturing.
totally. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
So Matt, you mentioned Cocoa Press earlier a little bit, but there was also a Cocoa Press feature in the magazine,
Hell
and
yeah.
there was mention of a 2.0. What's going on there?
Oh yeah. So the 2.0 units are starting to come in. We have our first production like test models of it. We're super excited about that. We now have a hot swap extruder on it, which we're really excited about where that can go in the future, and where that pushes things. Yeah, we're waiting for a big boat of machines to come across to us right now. So it's
Awesome.
almost here.
Awesome. What does the hot swap give you in the chocolate universe? Like, what does that enable?
Yeah, so one of the things about printing chocolate, as opposed to printing plastic, is it's a lot more temperamental of a material to print with. And so because of that, typically when we're printing in plastic, we heat the plastic right at the time of extrusion, so only the very tip of the plastic is heated, and then the rest of the filament is feeding through. With chocolate, to make sure that everything stays consistent, we actually heat the entire supply of chocolate at the beginning, and that heat cycle takes about 20 minutes to get the chocolate up to temperature, because you want to do it slowly, otherwise chocolate will separate. Like chocolate's difficult. And so it takes about 20 minutes for it to get up to temperature. Obviously, that means when you run out of chocolate in that reservoir, you have to wait 20 minutes for your next chocolate bar. So if you're trying to like do prints, we go off to events all the time. We were at Maker Faire Bay Area printing, throughout the weekend. If you're trying to keep prints constantly going, that 20-minute heat up cycle is a bit annoying. Now we're going to have an external unit that we refer to as the Cocoa Buddy. And the Cocoa Buddy is an external heater. So you'll be able to take the entire extruder off, toss it in the Cocoa Buddy, have an extruder heating while your printer is printing. And when you're out of chocolate on printer 1, you just press a button, pop the entire extruder off, pop it off of Cocoa Buddy, and slap the new extruder on, and you're back up and printing in 30 seconds. So a big change from not even 30 seconds, 10 seconds. So a big change from a 20-minute heat up time. But that also means that we can do things like print in dark chocolate and white chocolate and make models that have, colored variants to it. So we're excited to see how it all kind of works out as we get these out into customers' hands.
And what is the theoretical limit of chocolate printing prior to the hot swap? Like how much can you spread out in one shot?
Yeah, so we print for about an hour and a half. We'll get you through your first core of chocolate. And then you need to get another one going. So you definitely have plenty of time to preheat the second one while one's going. So you can now rotate between the two of them and kind of, infinitely print.
Fantastic.
Which will be great.
We just got about 5 minutes left. Before I forget, I want to make sure we usually do a sort of group picture, so to speak, where everyone, if you want to grab like a prop or something and hold it up, something to do with what you spoke about, maybe, that's great. If you don't have a prop, you can just wave or pull a face or what is that, Matt? It looks like a racetrack outline.
It's a lamp. I made a lamp. It's a laser cut lamp.
Excellent. All right. Dom's pointing. Chris, you got anything?
We will see here. We will see what I can put my hands on.
right,
Nothing screen worthy. Yep.
Of course, Keith's got Star Wars stuff.
Chris just has Chris. I mean, Chris is
all right.
enough.
Chris is enough. Chris is Chris enough. So I think. Oh no, I was gonna say 3, 2, 1, but Jamie says she already got it. So we're all set
got
on the So hopefully everyone was smiling and had their eyes open. So I'm just looking through the comments for anything.
First of all, hot chocolate, hot swappable chocolate, literally hot swappable chocolate is hilarious. But does that mean we can do filament painting? The filament painting
we
app where you can break it down into.
Yeah, we haven't tried it yet, but it's definitely something that's been discussed. It's definitely something that we're looking at.
Steph Piper says, "What's the biggest thing you've made in chocolate?"
I don't know.
The biggest one I've seen is the Eiffel Towers.
Yeah, the Eiffel Tower is pretty big. It almost maxes out our height. And that's about an hour and 15 minutes. Again, I think that kind of like large scale thing is going to be a lot more interesting now that we have this swappability. Because we'll be able to really start like having multiple cores go in. We were limited pretty much by a single core. It could stop and swap out, but now it's going to be a lot easier to do large scale objects. And so that's actually something that we're talking about coming up.
How much chocolate is a core? Is it like a pound or what is the
65 grams.
Okay. What is that in American?
About. We're Digifab world. Everything's in metric.
A decent sized chocolate bar.
Yeah. It's
about a decent sized chocolate bar.
Yeah, it looks about the same size as a Snickers bar.
There we go.
Translate that to Hershey bars, please, for Americans.
28 grams per ounce, according to the comments. So cool.
Yeah, like 3 or 4 ounce, 3 ounce chocolate
bar. Before I forget, I want to just drop a link to the Discord in the chat. If you just go to makezine.com/go/Discord, that's the easiest way to get on the Discord. We'll be there after the show if you have any questions. And otherwise, we got another 3 minutes or so to hang out and chat and talk about Digifab.
Anyone have any questions?
I have a question.
I'm curious. Matt, have you ever put like dye into white chocolate and done like multicolor stuff?
So yes, we have definitely played around with that a little bit. We're not real happy with our white chocolate formulation right now when we're in the process of swapping out our white chocolate. We need we need to spend a little bit more time there right now, but there's 4 of us in the entire company. And so it's rather small. Also of note, Make Magazine alum Caleb Kraft is one of the 4 of us now also. So there's 2 of us that are kind of ex-Make in there. But yeah, only 4 of us means there's limited time to make everything happen, and our focus right now has definitely been getting Cocoa Press 2 out. And now that we're very close to shipping, white chocolate is high on our list to find a formulation that we're happy with, and then we can play around more with colors and things like that. We have had some customers that have had really good success though of making their own cores from like the little melts that you can get at like Michael's and things like that, the chocolate melts that come in a wide variety of colors. One of our customers made this really beautiful chocolate printed Pook Maxi moped that was in like the right colors, and I actually have that same moped in my garage, and so I was like, it's the same color as my moped.
That's awesome.
So yeah, that was really cool. So people are definitely doing some fun things with colors already, with just like I say, making their own out of those little chocolate melts.
We're just about out of time, but I just wanted to share Steph's comment. We need a chocolate printer / pick and place machine combo so that it can put sprinkles on.
This is a constant like discussion of doing a dual-headed machine that one side is printing chocolate, the other is squirting in fillers like caramel or marshmallow or something like that. I say peanut butter.
Anything but peanut butter.
But even there, you think about a basic.
My boss has a nut allergy, and so we're not allowed to do peanut butter.
You think about a basic pellet extruder there though too, with sprinkles and the hard bits. You know, you just a basic pellet extruder with a bigger than extrusion orifice, but like just enough to deposit them in the right place, right? So now don't even need the suction for the pick and place. It's just more of a
You could actually
sprinkler release.
architect all your sprinkles.
Yeah.
For the perfect. Yes.
All right. Well, on that sweet note, we are out of time. Actually, these things go by so fast. So I just wanted to thank all of our panelists. Remind everyone to hop over to the Discord if you want to catch us there, and thank everyone both on the Zoom and on YouTube for coming and spending your time with us. We really appreciate it, and we will see you next issue.
Thank you, everyone.